There, I'm Neat,
I'm Rocks.
and this is the Bourbon Barrel. And today we are going to share with you a very special thing. We've never done anything like this before. Well, it's true we have drank bourbons before. We've never drank them in this style. We are going to be
It's
drinking
true.
with the master blender, head blender, as it were, of Doc Swinson. He is going to be joining us via Zoom call, and we're going to talk to him, interview him a little bit, and let him decide what order we're going to drink, and he'll probably be very helpful in telling us things that he does to these, and maybe a little backstory about him and how he got to where he is.
It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, he's a really really cool dude, really chill guy, and we can't wait to interview him. So shall we get into it?
Absolutely.
All right,
We'll
here we
see you
go.
in a couple seconds.
Viewers, this is Jesse. He is the
Parker.
Yep, yes,
Right.
Jesse Parker.
There you go. I remember something. You always have to remember things. I'm not, I forget everything.
The head blender at Doc Swinson, and he was more than gracious to give us some of his time and drink with us. So very cool, very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited about
So
it as well.
On air, thank you so much for doing
yeah,
this, man.
we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
It's
Oh, this
huge.
is cool. This is
Um,
really cool.
yeah. So we got glasses, and we have different varieties of glass to
Yep.
put your products in, and we have if there's any form or anything you want to do as far as putting them in order, we can
Sure,
go whichever way
absolutely.
you prefer.
Well, the funny thing is, that picture you sent me by text
Mhm.
message was perfect of the lineup because one, I know what to pull off of our library shelves, and two,
Nice.
this doesn't always happen. But I happen to have, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same single barrel as the one you have sitting there. So
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Fourth
I
one,
might
really.
actually get to try it. So it's the
Excellent.
210577.
The 210577. Yeah, that's
Yes.
Awesome.
very cool.
Good,
Excellent.
good. I was actually able to find it. Like I said, we moved office buildings, and I have a whole new whiskey library going on, so everything's a little bit all over the place at the moment.
Very
Um,
cool.
it was a good
Do you
move. It means
personally have a big collection of whiskeys and bourbons?
me
Well,
personally,
Yes.
sort of. I keep them all here because I basically live here. So as we find neat products all over, I'll pick them up, or sometimes the coworkers will, and especially my sales guy Steve, he's wonderful. He'll be like, Jesse, I think you got to try this. It'll be in a market that's not available in Washington, for example, and he'll bring back bottles for me, and we just have this. It's a whole room dedicated just to mostly whiskey, some other things too, but mostly whiskeys. So yes, and then me personally, I do keep a few neat bottles that are really hard to find at my house. Yeah, and those just get buried in the closet most of the time until one day I feel
As
like
do we, probably on a smaller scale, but yeah. As do
yeah,
we.
yeah. My clutter's here at work.
That's the way to do it.
Looks like an
Absolutely.
awesome work.
uh, but no, that's super excellent.
Right. Oh, the whole thing is super. I'm not gonna stop smiling.
I mean, that's pretty much like you get to try out different things and see how they met. Like that's your job, so that's kind
Yeah.
of right. So
And among
nice.
other things, that's absolutely my job. And it's kind of the neat thing about Doc Swinson's is we really set out to one, make a name in finished whiskeys and bring that category into light as something that's really positive. And we have a couple principles that stack behind that. And one of them is we believe we never overfinish our whiskeys, because in the end, they're still supposed to be whiskey. It's still supposed to be bourbon. It's still supposed to be rye. We want that still to be the foundation. But when I'm producing a new product or developing a new product, the goal is to find those points at which the whiskey still really is emphasized, and then the finishing cask is actually layering in flavors or certain nuances that'll help bring either balance to it, whether it be body or sweetness, or might add a little bit of extra fruit characteristic or spices. That's kind of our take on it. So we still want the whiskey to be first and foremost, which we think is not as common in the Finnish whiskey world. So it still tastes like whiskey.
Correct. Yes. Like I think we've only come across a couple that are finished in other things like Angel's Envy and
I feel like
Classics.
we tasted some that we hadn't reviewed on the show,
Right.
probably, but
I
only
think it was
show.
there was a rabbit
Angel's Envy,
Derringer.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
one of those Bowmans, one of the Isaac or
Yeah,
Bowman brothers,
something.
one of them's finishing port.
But
So,
yeah, those are basically our foyer into the finished whiskeys and things like that. But Last night I did, just so I wasn't a complete and utter noob, try them with my dad.
Oh, very cool.
And they are actually really tasty.
Oh,
So there's
excellent.
pressure on me. It's already good.
Like,
Hey, honest feedback is really all I care about, because in the end, it's, I'm sitting here at this desk and putting all these different flavor profiles together. I know what I'm kind of after and what I'm looking for, and that changes or develops over time, of course. That's why we put batch numbers on them. But ultimately, you don't know what that's like until it gets in the market and other people are tasting and reporting on it. And sometimes it takes, months, sometimes upwards of a year to start getting enough feedback to be like, oh, okay, this is actually stuff that people really enjoy. Or maybe we won't do that round again, which so far we haven't had one of those yet, but you never know.
You've definitely won a lot of awards we've seen.
yeah,
So.
and have been for years.
Yes, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess I'll toot my own horn for a quick second here. The first award I won was the New York International Spirits competition for gin when I was 21. So I started out at a young age doing that, and I used to run a whole distillery that was all fruit based, a lot of brandies, which we converted into gins and stuff like that as well. And then as I got a little bit older, into my mid 20s, I was confronted by a unique group of people to start this. We're mostly private label work, and then we also do this, which is the fun stuff. This is the stuff we really love to do. This is where our passion really lies. So that's where
awesome
the fruition of Doc Swinson's came from.
Very cool. And we did actually, in our due diligence, look up what Doc Swinson, like who he was. Is that like kind of...
Yeah.
What did you find?
Basically the first doctor in Seattle, like
Merchant Prince, the first merchant prince of Seattle.
basically a jack of all trades kind of thing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, doctor, second
Lawyer, helped name Seattle.
merchant prince.
all
Yeah,
that
after
stuff.
the Native American chief Seattle.
There's a lot of stuff about that guy.
Yeah. Which I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Learn something new every day, man.
I have to admit, I think you're one of the first group of people that have ever looked up where Doc Swinson comes from. Maybe there's one or two other people in the past, but nobody's ever done that due diligence, I will admit. And to be honest, as much as our product is loosely related to this character in history, who did a lot of positive things for Seattle, but we didn't want it to be the focus of our brand. Right? We wanted the focus of our brand to be the whiskey itself, what we do, the processes and the energy we put behind each and every bottling. And that's where the doctor really comes into play. So it's kind of an ode to the mad scientist in me and in our company as a branded group. And that's why we don't say Doc Swinson's was this character in history, et cetera, et cetera. In the end, Seattle doesn't have too much of a tie to bourbon. So and we were, to be totally fair, when we first started the brand, we were just kind of messing around. We were lucky to get a bunch of mostly like 10+ year old MGP barrels actually back in the day, and they used to be kind of a dime a dozen, and which is a funny statement to say now because they're nearly impossible to find. And that's why everything's gone through the roof in price.
It's true. Like it's harder. Like I remember in college, it was easy enough to find any bottle I wanted of any bourbon that I could find. And anymore, it's like,
this is the first thing you ever bought was Eagle Rare. It was just there.
It was just all now we can't find, Eagle Rare on the shelf, Booker's on the shelf. There's lots of things we can't find like at all in our area.
You gotta get on the list.
Absolutely.
It's all lists.
Yeah.
It's might even be drier out this direction. I'm not entirely sure what area you're exactly in New York, right?
Yeah, we're around the upstate area, around like about half-hour drive from Ithaca. So
that's a cool city for the record. That very much reminds me of where I'm living here, Bellingham. It's very similar. Same thing. It's kind of a college town, a little bit funky, a lot of character, a lot of agriculture around it. Spent a little time in Ithaca. I really enjoyed it. So it's a cool spot.
It's a very distinctive town for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. You guys might even have more selection of whiskeys out there. Washington's such a funny state, being all the way on the West Coast, and we're not California, so.
Yeah, I think the only thing we've had from Washington is Woodinville.
Yeah,
so
Woodinville's always.
Yeah, but I haven't heard about much else out there. But no, I was very excited to find your products all the way in New York, other coasts. So very cool.
Yeah, I think it was like fourth or fifth state or something we put Doc Swinson's was New York, in fact. Some of the idea behind our distribution is we actually didn't come to Washington until like quite a bit later, to be honest. Even though we're based out of here, we shipped to other states because we figured we wanted feedback, honest feedback from consumers that are more interested in whiskeys. It's just not as big of a culture here. So instead of getting all the, you did great job here in Washington, and then sending it, building everything and sending it all out to Texas and Kentucky and Arkansas, Tennessee, et cetera. And then being like, well, this isn't great bourbon. And then we'd be like, oh no. So we went further, and now we're kind of coming back home here. In fact, we're just starting to get into more locations here in Washington, which is nice because a lot of people started asking us, why can't we get it? We couldn't even buy it. That's the funny part. So
wow,
we're back at it. So I'm glad to see when I saw that bottle, it said New York exclusive on the front of that single barrel. That was pretty awesome. So my hat's off to them for giving some trust to us.
Yes, the only store around us is that we could find any of them in is actually our favorite store because it has the most selection, and we plan on actually talking to him at some point here soon too. So that'd be cool.
Very cool.
He's
very
already
cool.
okayed us to do an episode in his store.
Yeah.
And it's the best one. It's the only one that has yours. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
If I'm out that way, I'll have to come check it out actually. So I actually love that part of the world. So
We're over here.
Absolutely.
If ever you're here, just let us know. We'll be
Absolutely.
vice versa, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So where would you like to start?
I think why don't we save the single barrel for last, just because that's truly unique and special, because it's only one of kind and there's only a few hundred bottles involved in that. But I'd like to start you off with the triple cask. So it's the one with the purple label. Yep. And I've got the bottles right here as well. Pardon?
Or what do you normally use as a sipper? Glencairn?
Glencairn, yeah, it's just easy. You get the right air. It's constructed in a way that it allows the aromatics to build a little bit, but also be projected into your olfactory system nicely.
We've enjoyed these and the New Orleans glasses with the little fins and whatnot, because I don't know, I feel like I get a decent aroma out of this.
Absolutely. I mean, to each their own. It doesn't really matter to me. These are just the glasses I have.
We were just trying to figure out what you were going with so we could, mimic it.
Yes, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that work right. All right,
Somewhere.
there you go.
There it is.
Nice.
Found it.
So yeah, this is the Doc Swinson's Alter Ego series. So this is where we really like to play with blending and some really funky aging techniques on it. And it usually incorporates a minimum of 2 different mash bills. So this one in particular has both MGPs. One of them is their 36% rye based bourbon, and the other one's their 21% rye based bourbon. So both high rye bourbons, so there's quite a lot of spicy characteristics in there as well.
Is the corn over 50? I know it's over 50, but is the corn more, is it higher than 50?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
I apologize.
Yeah, in one of them it's in the 36%, it's 60% corn, and the other one, I believe, I always forget this off the top of my head, it's 73? No, sorry, 75%. Apologies. Corn.
I don't apologize to us for anything.
I do everything based on the odd grain, so sometimes I forget the common grain percentage.
Good.
So we blend those two together based on kind of a percentage that we feel is really good. It's going to have the most flavor that we're looking for. It's going to be well balanced, and it'll also bode well in a finishing cask. Not all bourbons do very well in finishing casks. Sometimes they can go wildly wrong.
Huge favorites of some of them we've tried. Yeah.
What's that?
We haven't been huge favorites of a couple of the finished ones we've tried.
Yeah, like I said, my biggest
transparency.
fear is that people will steer away from finished casks because they've tried some that just weren't well done. And there's a couple of us out there that I think really do a good job of doing nice finished casks. Whether it's more finished than ours or less is a different story, but they're still inviting regardless. And that's really the goal we want to show people.
I also feel like we don't see any other ones on any stores shelves locally that have been finished in more than one of anything else. It's always like port or sherry or not two or
never
three other
and.
casks. Yeah, no ands. Yeah,
Certainly.
so that's like makes yours unique in and of itself right off the bat.
It's funny because the name triple cask, which is pretty akin to the fact the label says cognac and sherry casks. Well, it's one aged in more than 3 casks technically. One being the original bourbon cask, right? The American White Oak New Char number 4s. They're aged for a minimum of 5 years in there. And then we take those, blend them together, of course, the 2 mash bills, and then finish them in ex Cognac, ex Oloroso sherry, and ex Pedro Jimenez sherry. So it's 3 different products that it's finished in, all individually. And
Very
those
cool.
barrels are really neat. I'm pretty selective about them as often as I can. They're all large format, so they're upwards of 2 to 3 times the size of one of these barrels.
Oh man!
They're
Wow.
quite large. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all they're called punch-ons and butts, of all things.
Nice. I love a good butt.
Yeah.
I know, right? Who doesn't? That's the sherry industry. They call them butts. They're quite large, and most of them had product in them over 20 years, sometimes up towards 40. Especially the Pedro Jimenez and Olorosos came from old Solera systems. So those just keep getting cycled through with more and more sherry and pulled from. So they never really get they never get emptied until they end up in my hands.
And then they're not empty for long.
Right.
No.
That's cool.
It's awesome.
And then you
Excellent.
blend those 3 together, and they're not equally blended together. They have a varying percentage. There's a rough sweet spot I usually try and stick to, but it varies a little bit from batch to batch.
Age them
depending
the
on
same
what
amount of
comes up.
time in each one of those casks?
Say that again.
Do you age them at the? Yeah. Sorry. I'm looking. Yeah, it's up here.
I gotcha.
He just got this. This is like the 2nd episode that it's here and not down here. So my apologies.
I just got
do
new
you-
speakers, so it sounds different to me too. So
Oh, okay. Do you age in those 3 casks? Do you age at the same amount of time in each one?
it varies. So to make this really simple, in a nutshell, yes, they're all aged approximately 45 to 60 days. But
Okay.
I don't pull them all because they're just sitting at an age point. So there are some casks I say, oh, this one's not quite ready enough. I really do taste every single one of my casks before I compile a blend. And it takes me about a week or so to go back and forth on the flavor profiles I'm looking for. And then I'll do benchtop models and I'll say, okay, this is a good direction. Let's pull these casks, batch it together, and then bottle it. So if I classify a barrel as not quite ready, or I want to relook at it at another point in time, it may age for several months. In fact, some of could be aged upwards of 9 months. And then in addition, I have what are called Blase Casks, which is a term taken from the cognac industry, where you have some casks that have older product in them. And this is, in our case, about 7 years or so old. And these casks have had this whiskey in them for 2-3 years. And I'll pull small portions of those casks to top note the whole batch. So it's actually a really hands-on process. So none of it's after 45 days we dump it. We don't do that.
Right.
We really stand by that silly little stamp on our bottle that says bottled when ready.
Right.
That's very cool.
Okay, so can I transition to that question?
Yeah, if you must.
It's sort of, if I must, right. It's sort of a joke question, I suppose, but like we're always, if you've watched even one episode, we're always goofing around and like, we're far from professionals. So if my joke question, I suppose, was if you always bottle it when it's ready, if you do have a cask strength, is it just born ready?
Yes, I guess that's a great way to put it. Maybe we should change it. Maybe we should change it on some of our cask strength ones, right? Is it born ready? For the single barrels, that's probably what we should have done. I like it.
Thank you.
If we ever do the label change on that, I'll make sure to put it in there. I'll give you some credit.
Stayed up all night writing that joke.
I did. It was just.
I like it.
I'd say I pulled all my hair out, but I don't have any, so it's it's a lie.
That's epic.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So what do you have?
Well, no.
So taste this.
Yeah, I've gotten. It's delightful.
I always thought I don't.
We're talking. I you go.
There you go. Fair enough.
Uh,
I can old married couple. I'm telling you right now.
Very nice.
Another neat thing about this particular product is once I pick all the barrels to get blended together, we blend them and marry them for a few weeks in ex-cognac foeders, and those will fit a Mini Cooper. So they're very large barrels. Yeah.
Wow.
So we go through a marrying process as well. So instead of just dumping them all together and bottling them, which essentially puts them into, I just call it shock, but essentially it goes into shock and the flavors get all of a sudden muted, the aromatics change a little bit. And we want that to mellow out. We want all those compounds to bond together again, the ones that, because there's unique ones that we just introduced to it. And then we'll take that evaluation, slowly proof it down to bottle strength from cask strength, and then bottle it. So it goes through quite a set of processes.
And one of the really cool things that I learned while we were doing our research was that you guys all taste them blind and you do it in varying proofs. And then it's not always like the highest proof wins. It's whatever proof tastes the best. And you have no idea which one that is until you decide which.
And you don't discuss it with each other because of the power of suggestion until you're all ready with an objective point of view.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
I thought that was really unique and cool that you guys like there's different proofs of the same blend and you guys just kind of like it's not about the proof for you, it's about the flavor. And that's very cool, and it actually does show through in the
this is good. I like this. I want more.
Thank you. Yeah. That's really, I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, y'all did a lot of due diligence. I'm impressed. Makes my job actually easy. We do with most of our products, unless we know we want to release as a cask strength, for example. Generally finished whiskeys tend to taste, we think, the most flavorful actually at a lower proof. And of course the market, a lot of people that really just want high proof, that's what their goal is. So I'd be lying if I said we didn't always pick the lower proof. Sometimes we do pick a little bit higher proof for some of our exploratory casks because we still think it's very good, but in the end you have water too, so you can always play with that. Don't ever forget, you can always drop some water in it and find the proof that works best for you. But as far as like our what we call kind of our flagship products, which is one of the ones we're drinking right now, the Alter Ego Triple Cask, and the Blunders Cut, the other one there, those ones we pick a proof point that we think emphasizes the best flavor quality for the product that we want to showcase. Cool. And that's, so we'll have like 30 bottles, little bottles all lined out, and I'll do different proof points on each. We slowly narrow it down to what we ultimately think is the best for this product. That's where Triple Cask we decided was 95.8. Seems to be our favorite, most flavor proof, and it's a little more approachable than something that's 115, 120. Sure. So
and and last night when I tried it with my dad, he had just a little bit of water and opened it right up and he loved it. It was fantastic for him.
So I think it's delicious for sure. There's no question about that. I definitely got some light fruits at first, like I was smelling light fruit, I thought. I don't know, it was very easy on the palate. There was no burn to it.
Like, for the height of the proof, there's no burn.
Yeah, that was
going down.
That was very tasty. I look forward to more of it in my mouth.
That's a good sign. We like that. Like I said, a lot of this wasn't to overfinish, especially it gets really complicated when you add more than one cask in, like you were saying, right? That's why you don't see a lot of them. For the fact that there's three main finishing casks in here, they can all complement each other, and they can also complicate each other. So my goal here isn't necessarily to get you to say, oh, I definitely taste Pedro Jimenez Sherry, I definitely taste Oloroso, I definitely taste cognac. That wasn't really the intention behind it. The intention was to say, this is bourbon that has these really nice nuanced flavors added to it. For example, the Pedro Jimenez really adds like some nice fruit leather characteristics, as well as it really builds up the body more than just the base bourbon originally had, especially at that lower proof point. So that's really the goal of the blending portion. And this product was actually inspired by red breast Irish whiskey. So, which I know some people might be like, I don't know, Irish whiskey is one thing, but I fell in love with it when I was a kid, to be honest. And this has been a product I've always wanted to make. And I've had some people even say, wow, this reminds me of red breast Lestau. And that's actually the one I was gunning for to some degree, and be like, I want to make a bourbon that kind of has these funky characteristics that's akin to an Irish whiskey. So
awesome. I like it. It's good.
I bet you do.
I do.
It actually just won. That was at the cigar and whiskey magazine competition this year. This particular one.
I just saw that. Yeah, and with good reason.
Yeah.
They keep telling me I need to talk about those things. I'm like, okay. Sales, right?
Yeah, that is what it is.
I think the bottle design is really cool too. It looks kind of like I was telling him, maybe a doctor's office during Prohibition when they were writing medical prescriptions for whiskey. So that's what I thought when I first saw it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. That's good. That was man. I wish I had the original label near me. I'd show you. It was so small, and it was very much a prescription label that came out of Prohibition. So we tried keeping that through the whole process, and
It's so cool looking.
it's years of reworking this label, and that's my side job, is I do the design for it. So
I was telling him before we started recording everything that even like the Doc Swinson logo itself is very like Red Dead Redemption video game kind of super cool. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, old times. Maybe not ones.
No, we're really cool about it. And the other thing is like the bottle itself is, you know, it's straightforward. It's not like trying to do anything fancy or anything like that. Because from what you've told us already, you put the work into the product, not the bottle, which is perfect.
Yes, that was the idea. And honestly, this bottle is really great because it fits in anybody's hand and also fits in your back pocket. I don't think that's quite the market we were going for. But when I'm walking between buildings, I like to put bottles in my pockets, and I find myself always using bottles that actually fit in your hand and pocket versus, you know, the really heavy, intense ones that are, you know, decanter like. I know they're gorgeous, but those are I don't know. They're beasts. I don't want to pour those as often.
Understood.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Have you ever thought of distilling, or is distilling just not the road you want to go down?
Yeah, so that's where I started, right? So I started in distilling. That was running a craft distillery. I've helped a few other craft distilleries develop recipes.
Nice.
It was most of my earlier 20s, and I wouldn't be opposed to distilling whiskeys, but I probably wouldn't want to do it in Washington. Probably want to do it closer to the heartland of whiskey. Honestly, I'm not opposed to moving to Kentucky. You know, if the whole team else wants to move there or somewhere near there. But honestly, it's such a capital intensive thing to do. I couldn't imagine what the cost of this would be as if we made our own versus working with a distillery that already makes really great products, which is wonderful. I mean, that's literally what MGP was set up to do, is make really great whiskeys for other people to use and manipulate or blend with other distilleries' products, which is always something we do work on. Every once in a while, we get barrels from different distilleries out of Kentucky or Tennessee as well. And we sometimes augment or do a special release, things like that. And I'm a blender more than I am a distiller. I'll be the first to tell you that. So I'd rather just work with other people's stuff and say, this is the cool thing that I can make out of it. You know, I'm not the farmer. I didn't butcher the steak, but I seasoned it and cooked it. So
it's the Gordon Ramsay of the steak.
There's no question that's an art form, though. That's an art form. Some of you were great at it, and there are some that just aren't, I guess.
Yes.
We've tasted some things that just are, But again, everybody likes what they like, but
True. Well, you hope so, right? Sometimes it's maybe not what they like until they have to make some money. I don't know, but or maybe just finished whiskeys aren't their thing. I do think that because this is pretty new in the United States, there's not a whole lot of emphasis or focus on blenders in the United States. Everybody talks about distillers, even though there's a good chance they're likely kind of doing that too. And most people that are master distillers, they come up with the recipes and whatnot too. They do development, but usually they don't distill things in the end. It's a big computer program and a couple people watching it, which is great, and they kill it. They make great products. But I think there's a opportunity as a blender to really make a mark on American products that is positive in the market. So
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So
what do you want to try now?
Yeah. Next up is the Blunders Cut, I believe.
Yeah, I would do the Blunders Cut. The neat thing about this is actually the base, the very same base that eventually makes up the triple cask. So
and just doesn't go through one of the processes.
Yeah, just doesn't go through.
So this is just a blend of 2 straight bourbons that are aged at least 5 years. It's the same 21% mash bill and 36% mash bill from MGP. We blend them together based on a proportion that we think emphasizes the most amount of flavor. It's a little bit higher on the 36% rye than the 21. And the neat thing about this one is every one of our brand processes is different. So we blend triple cask a certain way. We blend Blenders Cut a different way. What we do is, instead of adding water to it, so normally you just take a bunch of barrels, dump them all together, add water to the bottle strength and bottle it. We actually select every single one of our casks based on different proof points and flavors, and then compile a big matrix, and then we submit that for order for the guys to dump all the barrels. So they'll pull all the barrels that we need to make this to hit approximately 115 proof or bottle strength. So we don't add water. If we do, it's like a teeny bit. I mean, I'm talking like enough you could fit in your hands to just put it at the legal label number.
I can't fit any water in my hands. It just comes right off. So
Liter of cola.
Maybe whiskey?
You bet.
Just a liter. No.
The idea behind Blunders Cut is it showcases the very beginning of the process before triple cask. So you could taste where we started and where we went to. And then to not influence it any other way except for the barrels themselves. So the age that's on the physical whiskey. That's it.
Very nice. So that's awesome. And I see, so the bottle we got actually came with a little book here with basically what you'd said and your signature, and then a a little cocktail, the Doc's Derby. So
that's we
a lot of grapefruit.
Yes,
it's very cool. I won't give it away, so people have to buy it.
Wow.
That's fair. Don't steal the tags. I'm just kidding.
Wow, that's yummy. That's
yeah. So very cool.
Now for viewers, so we're doing what we do sometimes. What are the price points here? Which one, as far as just
So I bought them all very rapidly.
Right.
For this.
Like I said, where we got them, they were $10 difference. 46, 56, 66. I just don't remember.
I don't remember which one was which.
Me neither.
My guess is I would bet this was the least expensive, the Blunders Cut at 55. Like I said, every state's a little bit different. So this is probably your 55 or so. Okay. I imagine your single barrel was the next one, and then triple cask was probably the most expensive. That's usually how it goes, but every state's a little bit different. So
cask is
sometimes our distributors do the single barrels a little more.
Blenders is the cheapest. Single was in the middle. Yeah,
it was in the middle.
Exactly what you said. Exactly what
he's 100% correct. It's like he made the stuff.
No, it's like about this. Jeez.
That's actually probably the only sales question I actually know the answer to some degree, because all the time people are like, where can I find this in my state? I'm like, I don't know if it's even there.
Go on the website.
We have a bottle locator on docswhiskey.com. If you go there, type in your zip code and it will spit out a bunch of options for you.
That is exactly what I did.
It's at our favorite store, so we can get it all the time. So it's awesome. It's awesome.
We also, this is the only other shout out I got to throw down there. We actually started an online store. So for the states or like more remote locations that we don't normally service, you can go on our website, click on the Buy Docs Now, I think, button, and it'll link you to a site that you can actually buy our bottles and they'll ship to you. So if you're in one of the, I think it's like 39 states. Yeah, it should be 39 states. You could get it. And Canada.
That's I think that's probably the best thing that happened because of COVID is that you can ship alcohol pretty much everywhere now.
Yep. That and you can have like a bottle of wine in the park in a lot of places and nobody will question it anymore. And you're like, yes, this is amazing.
Or in your pockets, if they fit just right.
Remember, they fit in the back pocket. Straw not included. Got it.
More fun.
Excellent.
I'm gonna ask him because why not? If I would have made a joke and said, smells like Teen Spirit, do you get that?
You're kidding, right?
Okay, just making sure. I have no scripting. No, I'm that old, like I'm making some Tony reference or something.
No, I know exactly what that reference is.
He started making all these Seattle jokes, and I'm like, I don't know if he's even from Seattle, man.
I'm not from the city. I'm from an island very near it, but yes, of course. In fact, my cousin is Lane Staley, which some of you might know from Alice in Chains. So there's some connection. Not that matters, but I was not even really around. I was like 2. But yes, we've got the scene here. It's still memorable. You still hear it all the time.
Okay.
Did you even taste that one?
Yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah, it is.
There's a little, it like dances on the tongue, but then nothing really burning in the back.
No, it was
Very nice.
yeah,
Smooth.
it was just viscous enough to hold like the
Mhm.
mouthfeel, which we can't ever not make like grin when people say mouthfeel. It's just sorry, but like that one really like coated my mouth, my tongue, everything else, and was smooth going down with just the right amount of warmth. That
Mhm.
yeah, and for what was that 115? Is that what that
Yep.
one was?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
For 115 proof, it doesn't burn like a normal 115
No,
proof.
no, yeah, definitely.
It's
Like I said, it was.
blended
We
very
wanted you to be, still that's it's whiskey. We want you to be reminded that's what it is, and so a little bit of burn isn't a bad thing, but ultimately we wanted to bolster the flavor profile, and it's not just. I know it sounds like it, but it's not just another MGP product. It is, but it's a blend of two of them, and for some reason people are like, "Wow, this is a different kind of MGP than I've ever tasted," and it's
and
worth a try.
he likes to experiment a lot more than I do. I'm more of the straight up bourbon guy, and I'll drink like
I've made him had some scotches on the show before and stuff. He's not happy when we do it.
but the rye and everything, like the high ryes, aren't really my thing. But this is like I'm not tasting like normally when I taste like a bad rye, it tastes almost like straw. But that's not what I'm picking up on this at all.
That's actually, yeah, I mean that's pretty, yeah, that's really common in rye. The like horse hay, funky mildewy straw characteristic, especially
It's not a good name for a blend.
No.
Just so we're thinking the funky
sure?
characteristic bottle. I think I
Like
that
one that has funky in the name apparently.
funky drummer, right? Is that right?
Yeah, like I said, wow, the due diligence. I'm kind of, oh man,
pointing at you because you're over here and you're.
I got it.
Sorry.
No, we should maybe do one of these again sometime, and I'll have to get you some exploratory cask if we ever find it or whatnot. We'll figure something out, because the exploratory cask that we released, there's one I release annually. It's the first one we ever did. I'll probably do it again next November. Is the Mind, Body, and Spirit release, which actually is the 3 casks that go into triple casks just on their own.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, so you can try Blunders Cut. It's not just a sales tactic, I swear. You can try Blunders Cut, and then there's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see this one, but this is L'Esprit, which is the cognac finish.
Okay.
And then there's the Pedro Jimenez finish and the Oloroso finish, and you can try them all separately at cask strength. And if you were to find all the bottles, you could make your own version of triple cask.
This is my new version of Pokemon.
Wow.
Yes, collect
You're
them
gonna be
all.
hunting. Yeah, you are. Be like, hey man, where are you? And you'll be like, Louisiana. Like,
no, that's cool. We'll have to start searching for those now too. But yeah, I think when we looked at the map, the Funky Drummer was one that you could buy in New York. We just haven't found where yet. So.
Well, I can tell you one thing: you won't find it yet because I haven't bottled it yet.
Oh, well, that would make sense as to why we can't find it.
That would make sense.
We, like I said, we do stand by that little stamp that says bottled when ready. And Funky Drummer is, I only started with 4 barrels, and it was 6-year-old 95% rye whiskey. So super high, super spicy. That was aged in these Jamaican rum casks, and they were super funky, really high ester Jamaican rum, so really fruity, super fruity. I mean, I'm talking all sorts of tropical fruits. And it was in there for approximately 1 year, and there's different points in time along that year that I thought were really particularly excellent. And then they started getting a little too old, meaning they're really tasty. Honestly, it tastes a little closer to like Angel's Envy now, which is more that like Yankee Candle Co. vanilla spice kind of flavor going on. And that's not really what I wanted to go for. There was times in the past that we thought it was far better for us, for our product. And that was that more fruity rum characteristic, and we lost it. So I redid those batches, meaning I have new ones sitting aside that I'm waiting for to cure, and I'm not sure what I want to do with the original Funky Drummer yet. So it will come out eventually. It's just I held it back. We decided as a group that we didn't want to release it because it wasn't quite as spectacular as we once had it. So one day.
Putting your best foot forward all the time. That's
the
way to do business. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you have multi-level rick houses, or is it one floor, or how?
It would be nice if it was one floor, then I could like easily taste them all. But no, we're in Washington where everything costs so much per square foot. So everything's vertical.
Ah,
If that door behind me over this direction was open, I'd be able to turn the camera around, but it's not. It's they're 6 barrels high. And that's also where we keep our exploratory casks. We keep all of our finishing casks, as well as we have, which is not one of the bottles there, but our rye whiskey that's finished in rum cask Soleras, which is different than Funky Drummer. We have a whole Solera sitting back there that's 6 barrels high as well, which is pretty cool. And that's all. We move these manifolds around and pull from every single layer, and then cycle them down for every single pull. And that's been a really fun experiment. In fact, that one kills it. That one's, everybody seems to like it. Even people who hate ryes love it. I'm like, you kidding me?
That's
great.
That's a super cool, like super experiment almost. Like that.
yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
You guys pull from like every different type of like spirit to do what you do, and it shows. It's very cool, like how you guys, like when we were doing our research, I thought that was very unique and very cool, and something that
Thank
I
you.
haven't seen anywhere else, and it's very unique to you folks, and it works.
No, thanks for recognizing. I really appreciate it, because every single one, like I said, kind of is different, right? And it's pulled from different, basically a storybook of different recipes, right? So all these different processes that I've basically studied since I was a teenager. I was really fascinated by this kind of stuff when I was a kid. My parents thought it was kind of funny, and they're like, hey, go for it. We'll get you the books or whatever, we'll help you with this. And every one of these processes, whether it's from the sherry industry, the cognac industry, the Scotch whiskey, rum, etc., have these amazing ideas behind them, and I wanted to apply them to American whiskey because it just hasn't really been done. Like you said, not that many people do it this way, especially multi-cask blending. And I don't blame them for not doing it. It's an insane amount of labor. It's absolutely, most of my team's job is just moving liquid from one barrel to another to another to another, and putting them together, and then deciding, is it good? Maybe to another. It's kind of a lot. And everything's kind of custom made here as far as the equipment and whatnot, because nobody builds stuff for this part of the industry.
It's the Wild West of creation, I guess. So
yeah.
Did you want to ask them about Distiller's Way?
Nope, I didn't.
All right.
But if you want to.
Oh, I don't. We just didn't really understand what Distiller's Way was. It makes it sound like sort of it's a road, maybe, or if it's I don't know, or is it an umbrella over top that owns all of the?
Yeah, so Distiller's Way is our company, and Doc Swinson's is one of our brands. So I think classically it's called we're a house of brands, not a branded house. So if you're a branded house, you generally you have one brand and you just keep going from there. And we make different products. So Doc Swinson's, of course, is like our baby. It's our flagship. It's what we put our hands in the most. But as I said, we also do private label projects for grocery store chains and whatnot as well, which is pretty cool. Nothing in the whiskey world. We keep that to ourselves.
Understandable.
But we're also, for example, been working on tequila for about 3 years now. That's still not in the market yet, and it actually has kind of a tie back to Doc Swinson's, which is neat. So we're aging our tequila in 2 to 3 different types of casks in Mexico, and then we're going to blend those and do limited releases like once a year or so, maybe twice a year. We're still kind of figuring that part out. But our first one will be finished in 3 casks as well, so it'll be a triple cask kind of style. And then it'll be carbon filtered. So it'll be a Cristalino, which I know might sound like terrible to some people who really like brown spirits, but Cristalinos are really beautiful, and you can emphasize certain cask characteristics a lot out of them. And I've always wanted to play with that method, so I figured why not give it a try.
Are a lot of these X casks that you age the bourbon in your own casks from your other spirits, or do you get them the barrels from somewhere else?
So because we don't process anything like cognac or sherry or anything here, we get them from different places. It could come from usually a couple different locations. One of them, I do work with a lot of, for smaller projects where I only have a couple barrels I need, I'll work with barrel brokers or cooperages. Most of the time I work directly with cooperages overseas, and they'll recooper all these different casks from different industries. And then I'll just put in an order like, hey, I want a 20-foot container, 2 of these, 4 of these, 6 of these, 10 of these. They'll compile it together when they're ready. It's kind of funny. I have to hit these certain windows, otherwise we kick it. until I get fresh ones again. And then we send them, I get them over here, and then I'll assess every single barrel. Sometimes we have to fix them from time to time because they get a little damaged during shipping once in a while. So we've gotten kind of good with our cooperage tools.
That's what happens, right?
That's been fun. I don't know. I grew up working with wood as a kid with my dad, and I have to admit the cooperaging stuff is actually kind of fascinating. I know nothing about coopering. I just know I could fix a few things here and there, mostly fooders. So I've gotten good at fixing fooders, the big ones.
All right, jack of all trades.
Yeah, a lot of hats here. Yeah. It keeps
Very
things
cool.
interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you all for watching. This was the first half of the interview. Stay tuned next week because we will be releasing the second half, which has a lot more information. It's pretty cool, and yeah, you'll see us be random shenanigans with Jesse. But yeah, thank you again, and
Thanks for watching, guys.
we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.